What's up, guys? Welcome back to CagedIn MMA. It's your host, Ebit Ochiwa, and we are going to be talking about UFC 297, baby. This is episode 12. Thank you guys for tuning back in if you have been tuning in. And if you're new here, well, thank you for listening. Anyways, we got UFC 297 Strickland versus Duplessis. And you guys already know how we start this, right? So we start off with the Dana White call out. Dana White, come on. I'm a fan. Fly me out, bro. You know, it's like I've been a fan for so long, been buying the pay per views for over 10 years consistently. Check my ESPN account. You know, I could prove it all. It's time. Bruce Buffer, sponsor me Prime. I could be the Prime reporter. You feel me? You know, I spent money on these ESPN, these dolls here, this UFC championship belt. So you feel me, bro? Like I'm a fan, dog. You know, that's all I am, and I want to experience a live event. So, anyways, Dana White, fly me out, please. I deserve some tickets or something. Anyways, next we got trivia, guys. And I'm trying to not make this too long because we got a lot to talk about. So, obviously the last UFC event was well, other than fight night, but like last week. But anyways, UFC 296 was last year. So, UFC 297 this year we're starting it off with a banger. But anyways, let's start off with trivia. So, first question, if you get it right, you already know. Give yourself a tap on the back or whatever. If you're listening with someone and you get it wrong, you got to hit the person, bro. You feel me? So, anyways, first question. How many fights does Chris Curtis and Neil Magny have? Not together, but each. Feel me? So, I'll give you guys a couple seconds, you feel me, to get the answer. You pause it, whatever. You're listening. Bet. So they have a total of 40 fights. Yes, sir. They are veterans in the sport. They are very good. Their record is pretty decent, actually. And 40 fights, man, they telling you we'll get into each one of them later on. But if you got that right, good job. If you got that wrong, it's okay. But you got to get hit. You feel me? So next, this card, you guys already know, is in Canada. So, how many Canadians are on the card? Go ahead and guess a number, I guess. So, I'll give you guys a few seconds to answer that. Done? There are a total of 8 Canadians on this card. So, to fight in Canada, that's actually a decent amount. I'm not going to lie. But they could have, put a little more Canadians because it's in Canada. But it's all good. So maybe GSP will show up. You feel me? So shout out to the Canadians, obviously Sean Strickland. You feel me? You know how he feels about Canada and whatnot. And I mean, I'm in America, bro. So feel me? So, anyways, next we got what weight class did Strickland fight at and what was his nickname? So Sean Strickland, before obviously getting to middleweight, he fought at a different weight class, which might be pretty obvious because of his record. And then, what was his nickname? Which he kind of still has the same nickname. Bruce Buffer, I think, still called him it, but I think he had asked not to be called that anymore, and he doesn't have a nickname right now. So, anyways, uh, yeah. So, give you guys like 3 seconds. Anyways, all right. So his prior weight class was 170, and that was a big cut for him. And then his nickname was Tarzan because when he was like just starting off and everything, like his hair, you feel me? So that was dope. Anyways, he fought at 170 and Tarzan. If you got it right, good job. If you got it wrong, you gotta get hit, bro, or hit yourself. You feel me? You gotta keep up with the program. You know. Anyways, next, we got announcements. These are fight news. You feel me? I do this all the time. And this is just news if you want to keep updated, things like that. Just a real quick summary of what's been going on since the last, uh, you know, podcast or whatnot. Anyways, so first we got Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. Um, this fight's gonna be good. It's It's a boxing match. Ngannou obviously surprised many of us against Tyson Fury, and he did pretty good with the knockdown, everything. Obviously, as you guys know, if it was an MMA fight, Fury would have probably been over with. But it's not. It's a boxing match. They got rules. They got counts. They allowed to get up. So shout out to Francis Ngannou, right, and Anthony Joshua, bro. This is actually going to be a good fight, very technical fight. I think Ngannou, obviously, he wanted to start off with boxing, went into MMA because of his coach, and now he's at boxing. So, all luck to him. He's doing great things, right? Especially the fact that he was a champ, going to the boxing, beat, not beat, but like, was had a very close fight with the best boxer in the heavyweight division, Tyson Fury. So, it's a unbelievable performance and a great fight. Shocked the world for sure. So next we got another possible boxing match in the works right now, but Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal 2, technically, in a boxing ring. So I actually like that fight. Both of them, Jorge Masvidal is obviously known for his striking. And honestly, yeah, I'm going to be honest. From the people that have retired and all that stuff, I think Jorge Masvidal would have the best performance in boxing. He's very well known for his striker. That's how he, you know, that's his main technique, right? Is striking. And honestly, I really think that Jorge Masvidal is also young enough to do great things in the boxing sport. So, he's not super old. He still seems healthy and everything. And actually, he's in the corner. But yeah, man, I honestly, I think that Jorge Masvidal will do very well in the boxing realm. So next we got UFC 300 as of right now. There's not all the fights yet, but a lot of fights have arose. And I'll go through these quick, but these are going to be bangers. So we got Zhang Wei Li versus Yan Xianan, and that's for the women's strawweight belt. And I love that fight. John Wei Lee, and I was talking about it actually a few podcasts ago that most likely them two would fight, and guess what? Here we are for UFC 300, and I guessed it right. I gotta be part of the matchmaking process. You feel me? I'm that good, bro. Anyways, next we got light heavyweight Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic, and this is also a great fight. You feel me? Like Yuri Prochazka, obviously coming off a loss against Alex Pereira. Obviously, Yuri being, many people think Yuri could have recovered and continued the fight. He obviously humbly was like, "Nah, man, Alex, had me. He tagged me, etc." So, all respect to that, but I definitely love this fight. Yuri is 29-4, and Alexander is 14-3, which is a good record. And yeah, man, I can't wait for this fight. Next, we got a veteran in the sport against ex or former champ, I would say, featherweight Calvin Qatar or Cater versus Aljamain Sterling. I actually like this fight. Obviously, Cater is a phenomenal fighter, and he's been legit a veteran in the sport. And he's 23-7, whereas Aljamain Sterling moving up in weight, he's 23-4. And I actually like this fight. I think that this will get Sterling's feet wet in the division and everything, and it might come off a possible win, but it's going to be a tough fight for sure. Because man, Cater's a dog. If you guys have watched his fights and previous fights, oh man, he's a brawler, bro. So I can't wait for this fight. I think Sterling decides to take it to the ground to play it safe, etc. But we'll see, man. Cater obviously has been in there with greats and has dealt with a lot of different techniques and everything. So can't wait to watch that fight. Next, we got a very phenomenal fighter, and obviously many people's upcoming prodigy. Like kind of like he is a prodigy, but like you know uh many people are have high hopes for this guy, I would say. And it's your boy Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage. And I like this fight, man. Finally, Bo Nickel is going up in the rankings and going up in the spots and everything. And obviously, every fight Bo Nickel takes is his next toughest fight. So I really like this. Cody is 10-5, and whereas Bo Nickel is 5-0. Obviously, Bo Nickel, an ex national champion or an ex, uh, very high ranking wrestler and everything. So, former wrestling champ, and now he made his UFC debut. He's 5-0 in MMA, etc. So, phenomenal, man. And he got in MMA, in the UFC early on in his MMA career. But keep in mind, man, this guy is a very, very high ranked wrestler. So one of the best in the business and probably the best in the division, most likely, honestly. Next, next we got lightweight, right? A lightweight fight: Charles Oliveira versus Armin Sakurian. And man, I love this fight. Obviously, Islam is out due to an injury. Islam won't be fighting until summer. But Charles Oliveira, 34-9. Keep in mind, dude, he has beat nearly every top five contender in the lightweight division, other than Islam Makhachev, the current champ. But I love this fight. The winner of this fight is going to fight Islam Makhachev in the summer, confirmed by Dana White. So can't wait for that fight as well. Next, for UFC 300, dude, this thing is stacked. We got Figueiredo versus Garbrandt. Love it, right? Figueiredo, Garbrandt, obviously back in business. Figueiredo, he's a dog. I actually really like, they say styles makes fights, and I really like this fight, man. I'm excited to see Garbrandt, kind of come back. I was talking about, his last performance. I think, he would retire, etc. But we could see UFC 300, phenomenal fight card to be on, and a historical fight card to be on. So can't wait for that fight as well. And obviously the former champ Figueiredo, uh, just a dog, man. Next, we got the latest, news confirmed by Dana White recently. UFC 300, we got Jim Miller versus Bobby Green. Bobby Green is back, man, after a knockout loss. Respect to him. He's a dog, though. He'll fight anybody at any time, and we could see it. Jim Miller is also a dog, man. He's been doing very good lately. And Bobby Green, man, like, again, you got two dogs, two brawlers getting in the cage, and I can't wait for that fight. I hope Bobby Green made a phenomenal recovery, obviously, and especially after his last loss. The ref, I believe, stopped it too late, but again, and many people agree with me. So I'm excited to see Bobby Green back, though, And next, we got UFC 300. Again, Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway for the BMF belt. Many people were saying that, Justin Gaethje is next for the UFC belt. I still believe in my heart, not really, just my opinion, man, that Charles Oliveira still deserves the title shot next. Yes, he lost to Islam, but Oliveira also beat Justin. And, Justin, he's been doing very great. Obviously, just knocked out Dustin Poirier. But I think between Justin and Oliveira, they both deserve it. And although Dana White did confirm that winner of Charles Oliveira and Armin is going to get the title shot next, which I have no debate for. I like that. And who knows, maybe we see a situation where it was like with Sean Strickland Izzy, where, Duplessis got hurt, Strickland stepped up, took that fight, and I talked about that too, right? If it isn't Strickland, it will be Duplessis. And you go with the pay-per-view views and what's best for the business as well, because in all, it's also a business. So next, we got Brandon Moreno finally coming back versus Brandon Royval. Obviously, Brandon Royval just coming off a loss, and Brandon Moreno obviously is a dog, also coming off a loss against obviously the champ, very great champ, and both of them are coming off the same loss, and I can't wait for this fight. I think again, styles make fights. They're both very fast paced. Their cardio is insane, and I'm gonna love to see it, man. I really do. So I can't wait for that fight. So let's get into UFC 297. We'll start off with the last prelim. Again, we'll make this quick. It's a it's a good fight card. It ain't the best, I will say that, but it's a good fight card, right? The last prelim of the night is going to be Brad Katona versus Garrett Armfield. I like this fight. I really wanted to mention this fight because, man, these two guys are dogs, man. Brad Katona is a dog, especially. He's 15-2 versus Garrett Armfield. He's 9-3. They're both coming off a win. So, it's like they're trying to get their win streaks up and running and everything. And I don't think this fight ends in by decision. I think it ends early on, not early on, but I think second round, third round knockout, or even submission is the way I'm rooting towards. But I think it's going to be a knockout in the second, either in the middle of the second round or early third round. So obviously it's a round fight. So yes, sir. I mean, I love this matchup, and this is going to be a great fight. So you guys stay tuned in. If you guys really don't watch prelims and just watch the main event, you guys got to watch this last prelim because I'm telling you, it's going to be a good fight. UFC 297 main event. Let's get to it. All right, UFC 297. Obviously, the last main event is fighting for this bad boy. So let's go ahead and get started, right? So we got Arnold Allen, a dog too, right? Arnold Allen, I'm very excited for this fight, versus Movsar Evlev. Now, he's a Russian dude. His name is hard. You feel me? But it's a crazy fight. Why? Because dude, I'm gonna get into stats, right? A little stats. Arnold Allen, you guys know him. He's been in the sport for a while now. He's 19-2 versus Movsar. He's 17-0. Let's start off with Movsar. And I hope I'm saying his name right, but obviously the accent and stuff like that. They're Russian, man. It's hard to say their name. Anyways, he has 3 knockouts, 4 submissions. Okay, keep in mind he's 17-0. He's undefeated. 3 knockouts, 4 submissions. He just beat Lopez and Ige, which is a phenomenal fighter. His okay. Most fighters land their shots to the head. I understand that. Most people land 60, 70% shots to the head, even 75%. Right? This guy lands 81% shots landed to the head. And let me tell you something, that's actually a decent amount, right? Most people, especially in MMA, obviously they mix it up, leg kicks, body shots, etc. But to go 81% shots landed to the head, most of these people on the fight card, I think he is the highest one in percentage wise, and that 81% is like over 300 strikes to the head, right? Um, and again, he's 17-0, so he's a phenomenal fighter. Obviously, his technique, when you go based off statistics, you can tell this guy is aiming for a knockout, etc. So, yeah. Next, we go into Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen, he has 7 knockouts, 4 submission wins, and 1 first round finish. Obviously, Allen just lost to Holloway. He's beat Cater, Hooker, Yusuf. All these guys are also veterans in the sport. He's seen it all. He's dealt with the best of the best. And obviously, Holloway, I mean, he's kind of like that number one guy who should be champ but isn't champ. Obviously, we got the reigning Volkanovski, and phenomenal fighter, man. He's Holloway is just great, But Arnold Allen, he lost to Holloway, but Arnold Allen is a dog, man. So, 7 knockouts. He obviously has more than Evlev, but again, from a 19-2, 17-0, he only has 3, like what, like 19-21, 17-18, 19-20, like 4 more fights, right? So, uh, for statistics standpoint, to have 7 knockout wins, 4 submissions, compared to Mavsar, 3 knockout wins, 4 submissions, it's very close, man. So, I believe, it's going to be a great fight. Um, Next, well, I'll say this actually, we already talked about, Mavzar. He has 81% of shots landed to the head, whereas, Arnold Allen, he has 73% shots landed to the head. So you see the difference where I was explaining like the percentage. It could go 70, 75. Obviously, most people aim for the head. They mainly aim for body to set up the head shots or leg kicks to, train their movement, to aim for the head. But percentage wise is a difference, guys. So from 73 to 81, obviously Arnold Allen mixes it up, you know, way more than um, Movzar does. So next we got the man, Chris Curtis versus Mark Andre Barrios. Chris Curtis, man, he's been in the sport for very long. He's 30 wins and 10 losses. Like I said, he has 40 fights. He's a very good friend of Sean Strickland. Obviously, most of you guys know, but he's 30 and 10 versus Mark Andre Barrios. He's 16 and 6. Obviously, in an experience standpoint, Chris Curtis definitely has the edge. But Andre, he has 10 knockouts, one submission, six first round finishes. Out of 16 wins, he has six first round finishes. That's phenomenal, right? He's coming off of a win against Anders. And, it's this guy, man, he's obviously an up and comer. He's great. He's 16 and 6. It's kind of like, his record isn't perfect or whatever, but I think for a guy like Chris Curtis who's finally getting back in the cage, etc., it's going to be a good fight. It's a good matchup. And I really like this matchup because it gets both of their feet wet, right, for the next contender. I don't know how long Chris Curtis has left. I really see him not retiring right now, but like maybe in a couple years, you feel me? But yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires now. I mean, 40 fights, bro. Like, he's been in the game for a while. Chris Curtis, obviously, we talked about he's best friends with Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is obviously fighting in this card. It's a good way to come out, right? Like two buddies fighting on the same card, and it's a great you know uh card to be on together as well. So we got Chris Curtis. He has 17 knockout wins, one submission win, and seven first round finishes. So out of 40 fights, compared to Andre has six first round finishes. Chris Curtis has seven, which is only one more, but he has 17 total knockouts, whereas Andre has 10 total knockouts. Now, when you put it into the standpoint of, like, oh, okay, like how many fights compare, Chris Curtis has 40 fights compared to obviously Andre. He has like 22 fights total. So, I mean, it's very impressive. I don't, based off knockouts, based off statistics, things like that, I don't think this fight goes to distance as well. But these guys are dogs and they stay in the game for, in the fight for a while. So, like I said, great fight. This is actually going to be one of the interesting fights that I'm very excited for. So yeah, I hope you guys tune in for these, right? Chris Curtis, obviously his last fights, I talked about it, or haven't talked about it, but he couldn't continue against Imavov. They had a headbutt whole situation. Chris Curtis' eye, I believe, swelled up, etc. He couldn't really see, so it ended, I believe, just in a draw, um, or was it a no contest? I believe it was a draw. But correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, he couldn't continue against Imavov, and he lost to Gastelum. Gastelum, obviously a veteran in the sport as well, but he beat Buckley. Buckley, obviously, you guys know him for his vicious knockout, and he's also a dog. So Chris Curtis, obviously, like I said, this is a fight for him to get back on his feet, get his feet wet, and just test the octagon again. So very excited for that. Next, we got Neil Magny versus Mike Mallet. Neil Magny, obviously, he's a dog in the sport. Also, 40 fights, as I was saying. He's 28 and 12. Against Mike Mallet, he's 10-1 and 1. So, both guys are great fights, although Mike has a pretty impressive fight record considering he's only 10-1 and 1. Mike has 6 fight win streak. He has 4 knockouts and six submissions. That means he has literal 100% finish rate, with all his wins. So, man, bro, like I'm very excited for this fight. I don't, obviously, with this one, I don't see it going to distance. We'll start off with, saying that obviously Neil Magny's last performance wasn't the best. He obviously had lost to Ian Gary. those leg kicks maybe that, I think Mike Malley is gonna, capitalize on that because early on now, I mean Ian Gary obviously it's not the same strength or anything, but obviously when you learn like okay, like man, Neil Magny obviously skinny legs, not it's very hard. He wasn't really checking the leg kicks. So hopefully he went back to training camp and focused and really worked on it. But who knows, man? To see that Mike has 4 knockouts and 6 submission wins, he could finish it wherever, right? He's a great MMA practitioner. So all around great. We got Neil Magny. He has 7 knockouts and 4 submission wins. Very, very similar to Mike's, except it's reverse, right? So instead of 4 knockouts, he has 7 knockouts, but instead of 6 submissions, he has 4 submissions. So it's literally like opposite by one. So which is very impressive, right? Neil Magny, obviously his record, he has more to distance, but again, it's very impressive. Obviously, as I just said, he had just lost to Ian Gary, but he beat Rao and Daniel Rodriguez, which is also a dog and kind of a veteran in the sport. So yeah, man, I can't wait to see this fight. Honestly, I'm not big on picking fighters and choosing who's going to win and whatnot, but I do think Mike Mallet does take the win on this one, and I don't think it goes to distance. I honestly think it ends by. I'm leaning more towards submission, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a knockout. So, like I said, I'm excited for this fight as well. So next we got Raquel Pennington versus Myra Bueno Silva. Obviously, Raquel Pennington, she's 15-9. It's not a phenomenal record, honestly, not really the greatest, but obviously she's had a lot of fights under her belt. Versus Myra Bueno Silva, she's 10-2-1, which is only 13 fights compared to Raquel Pennington. She's 15-9, which is 24 fights. So obviously, based off experience, Raquel has the edge, but based off wins, Myra Bueno Silva has the edge when speaking statistics, right? And a percentage rate. So Silva, she has 1 knockout, but 8 submissions, doc. She has 10 wins, okay? Think about this. She has 1 knockout, 8 submissions, and 7 first round finishes. That means literally one went to distance out of the 10 fights. So, like, off her wins. So, which is phenomenal, right? She just beat, Holly Holm, which Holly Holm, obviously, she's the one who finished Ronda Rousey. She's kind of, Holly Holm, in my opinion, she's a little old. Not really, in my opinion. She is old on the old side, but she's still a phenomenal striker and, a great fighter in general. So, Pennington, now Pennington, she is 15-9, but she is on a fight win streak. She only has 1 knockout and 4 submissions, which statistically isn't like super great, but obviously we could tell that she is still a pretty decent grappler. So I think this is going to be a grappling fight. I think most of the time is going to be on the floor, right? Early takedown, maybe within 2-3 minutes takedown, and then from there it's going to turn into a grappling control sort of clinch, maybe if they can't get each other down. So they'll stay like that. Her last win, now Pennington's last win was last year, literally like January 23rd against Vieira. So she's been out for like a year. So we'll see that whole ring rust, how it is. It's not really too much ring rust, but a year, honestly, to, most fighters like to take like 2 fights, right, a year, whereas she's been out for a whole year. So I'm excited to see this, right? I think uh, not many people are really super excited for this fight. Obviously, in all honesty, like it's one of those where it's like, okay, we're gonna see a grappling match, not too bloody maybe, but you never know. It's the fight game. If they can't get each other down, I think it's going to turn into a brawl. And if it's a brawl, I mean, both of them have 1 knockout win. I don't think knockout power, between them is huge, but who knows, man. Like I said, I really believe it's just going to be a grappling match. Next, we got Sean Strickland versus Dricus Duplessis for the UFC middleweight championship belt. Sean Strickland versus Duplessis. Obviously, Duplessis is trying to take that belt back to South Africa, whereas Strickland is trying to keep it in America. Now, Sean Strickland, obviously a character. Dricus Duplessis, a character as well. We saw the brawl. I believe it was UFC 296. I mean, what do you expect? Dana White said, "Bro, like you literally put them right in front of each other. You feel me?" So it's like Strickland even told, you know, Burns' kids, to move out the way and wife. And he had told him, I guess, before the fight, right? He was like, look, like it's gonna go down. You feel me? He had supposedly Gilbert Burns, he did an interview and before the fight he told, you know, or Sean Strickland told him, like watch out or whatever the hell. So anyways, it was expected, nothing new, and I mean, you ain't gonna stop Sean Strickland, right? So he really doesn't care, and I respect it. So first, we'll start off with Dricus Duplessis. His record is actually pretty great. He's 22, 20 wins, 2 losses. He's on an 8 fight win streak. He has 9 knockouts and 10 submission wins. Dog, 19 of his wins are finishes out of 20. Just one isn't a finish. You feel me? So does this end by decision? Hell no. So, it's like whether it's Duplessis or Sean Strickland, I think Sean Strickland could also has the power to knock out. We saw him against Izzy, who Izzy has a great chin as well. So even a left hook, it just rocked Izzy, but it didn't literally knock him out and stuff like that. It stunned Izzy and everything. So Alex Pereira's left hook. So man, I think Izzy has a chin, but Sean Strickland capitalized. He was very precise with his right cross and man, again, I don't think it doesn't end by decision. If it does, I don't think it does. I think cardio wise it'll be towards Strickland. So I think after the third round, it's Strickland fight. But from 1 to 3, it's Duplessis. In my opinion, it's Duplessis. But after third round, third, fourth, fifth, from there, or even mid third, fourth, fifth, I think it will be Strickland's due to cardio and the pace. So, anyways, like I said, 9 knockouts, 10 submissions. Look at his record. He's beat Whitaker, Brunson, Darren Till, Brad Tavares. It's like these guys are very well known, very badass people. And honestly, just like I actually, Duplessis, again, he was supposed to fight for the title already against Izzy. Strickland just beat him. So this is a phenomenal fight, obviously, and it's the right fight to make. So yeah. Next we got, well, I'm actually also curious about, this is what I was talking about. The reason why I'm also talking about cardio, many people are like, nah, Duplessis, he got it, etc. But what I'm also curious about is how he's going to perform. We saw against Whitaker. I feel like during round 2, Duplessis was, breathing out through his mouth again, stuff like that. He obviously got no surgery due to like him not being able to breathe correctly. But we're gonna see how that affects him this fight as well. If he can't put out Sean Strickland early on, like I said, cardio wise, Sean Strickland. I mean, everybody talks about this guy's cardio. He never stops putting the pace on you. He never stops. And we thought the same about Kobe Covington, but Kobe Covington, I still believe in ring rust and all that stuff. But Sean Strickland, obviously, he just fought. So yeah, I still give it to Sean Strickland with the cardio, but I'm very excited to see what Duplessis has to offer. So next we got Sean Strickland. Also, he has a good record as well. Sean Strickland has 11 knockouts, 4 submission wins, and 9 first round finishes. And obviously he hasn't really wrestled, he hasn't really grappled. Early on he did. I believe his debut was a rear naked choke. He did wrestle. He was wrestling very early on, and many people say, he always works on his wrestling. Many people say he's a very good wrestler, but he just doesn't use it anymore. And Sean Strickland has talked about that. He just wants to stand and bang. And against Adesanya, many people believed, even I believe, that he was going to wrestle. Surprisingly, he didn't. He outstruck Izzy, which was a surprise to me as well. um, but yeah, man, styles make fights. He talked about, there's one thing that Izzy's fighters have done or opponents have done Whereas like they stay to distance, they play it safe. Whereas Sean Strickland was like, no, so he cut off the range of Izzy Adesanya, and many people didn't realize that. Like, how did he beat him? Well, yeah, bro, Adesanya is very. He's not one dimensional. He's very great. He's a very great, wrestler in the essence of like stuffing the takedowns and everything. But yeah, he relies a lot on his reach. You know, so Sean Strickland cut that off. So he has a very good fight IQ, and maybe they practice that during, um, camp. But at the same time, that's just how Sean Strickland fights, right? He puts the pace in. So that's also another reason why I don't believe this fight goes to distance. So he just beat obviously Adesanya by a landslide. I mean, it's very debatable for a 5 rounds to 0, right? So a 50-45, or most, I think all every single one of them was 49-46, if I'm not wrong. But I mean, yeah, it was it was either a 49-46 or a 50-45. So he's beat Magomedov. Obviously, he was Magomedov wasn't so high ranked, but he was the new guy, you could say, and he beat him too. He finished him. He beat Imavov, which is also another great fighter. So he had a close fight to Cannonier. He obviously lost to Pajera by a left hook. But legit, man, like this guy, I wanna see Jared Cannonier fight Sean Strickland again, because I believe Sean Strickland actually won that fight. But again, this is another reason why you don't want to leave it to the judges as well, right? He's beat Hermanson. Hermanson is a great, phenomenal wrestler. He was a veteran in the sport. He's a great fighter. I actually thought Hermanson was going to be champ and all that stuff. And just again, man, like the UFC does have the best of the best, and it's great. I love this fight. I love we talked about Hermanson. Actually, he had a wrestling match against Hamza, and Hermanson is very well known for his wrestling. And Sean Strickland, again, he has hardly wrestled, um, but his takedown accuracy is 64%, which is good. In all honesty, in MMA, with all your elite fighters and everything, 64% accuracy in the takedown, offense is very good. And then on top of that, he has 84% takedown defense. So, which is very high up there, right? Most people, um and the thing is, he hardly wrestles, right? Duplessis, I feel like, is going to try to wrestle in this fight. But we saw Duplessis and Robert Whitaker. Robert Whitaker is also a wrestler himself, but we didn't see much wrestling in that. We saw a stand up fight. And when you want to stand up with Sean Strickland is going to love it. He's going to want to stand up, and he's going to want to test your abilities on the feet. Sean Strickland is just a dog. He likes to brawl, and he likes getting hit. It's who he is, but he's not scared to get hit, which many people are. So obviously, Dricus Duplessis, his toughest fight, I think. Well, honestly, it's very hard to tell, man. I really would have loved to see Duplessis versus Adesanya before Sean Strickland versus Adesanya, but at the same time, I talked about it in the prior podcast that it made sense if Sean Strickland fought Duplessis or fought Adesanya first, and then Duplessis got the winner of that. So I'm excited for this fight. I can't wait. It's this weekend. Press conference. I haven't watched it yet, but it's out already. Very excited for it, and man, so much going on. Obviously, Sean Strickland just went off on the Canadian Reporter. It's hilarious. Fans love him though, and man, Dricus Duplessis, he has fans too. He's trying to get the belt back to Africa, and I think they made amends now. Sean Strickland supposedly reached out to Dricus Duplessis, saying like, "Hey, man, if there's anything out of touch that you don't want me to say, etc." So, yeah, man, I'm excited for this fight. UFC 297. Tune in. Prelims are going to be good, especially the last prelim. You guys got to tune in. And then the main card, obviously, main card's going to be great. I'm excited for the belt, honestly, the very main event. And then honestly, I'm very excited to see Arnold Allen fight, Chris Curtis fight again. Like these guys are basically coming back. It's like kind of like a comeback, card. So, I love to see it. I'm excited for the future. UFC 297, 298, 299, and UFC 300. Can't wait to see the full card of that and talk to you guys more about it. Anyways, this is Caged in MMA. It's your host, Ebisu Chiwa. Thank you guys for tuning in this much and this far. If you guys listen to the whole thing, comment down below your opinions on this and let me know if you guys want to see anything else. And let me know your opinions, your fight picks, who you guys got for UFC 297. Anyways, this is what's on at stake on the line. Thank you guys. Follow, share, subscribe, like, and yes, sir. Peace. I'll see you guys on the next.